Mr. Marley, you want to come on up? You want to explain why you are here? Go ahead and announce.
Okay.
Tell us who you are, and then we'll have you go through some stuff, and then I'm going to have planning and zoning share their
Okay.
information.
I'm Don Marley from Aramo, and I've got working on a subdivision out on Jenkins Road. And my property borders the road. Each lot borders the road. And I've talked to the power company for over a year on it. They said when I sell a lot, they will gladly come and put the power across the road to the people so they can put up a transformer for wherever they put their house. I had a minor land division. The property is south of that. It's in the same field. This is old dry farm ground that I used to farm. And when the people bought the lots, put their house, the power company just come and put it in. So I surmised that that's what they were going to do on this. But then they said, our ordinance requires power to be brought to the frontage of each lot. And I talked to the power company and they said, we don't want to come up and put a pole up and hang wire just to do it. It'd be a lot better if we just come up and put the poles to the people's houses and put the transformers. He said, that's common sense. So I need to go before the commission and ask for an exemption to this requirement. And that's what I'm here for.
So an exemption to put the power poles in?
No, an exemption so that I don't have to put the power across the road onto my property. It's right there on the west side of my property on the right-of-way for the road. I got a picture here if you'd want to see one.
So you just want to be able to wait until as a house gets, as a person puts a house up, then the power company will do it. You don't want to do it ahead of time. Because the power company doesn't want to do it ahead of time.
When I talked to Ryan Cook, he said that's just added work for us and added expense because we have to have people come up to put in one pole.
Right.
Or we can have a crew come and put in however many poles we need to reach the house, to put the transformer. That's what I'm asking for, an exemption so that I can sell the property, then the power company will come and put the power to them.
Okay. Al?
Hal Jensen, Planning Director, Bannock County. Mr. Marley is correct. When he did a minor land division on his first 4 lots, the minor land division is exempt from the standard requirements of a subdivision. Be aware that this is phase 1 of a 12-lot subdivision. Each phase has 4 lots. Okay. When Mr. Marley had his criteria for approval, one of the conditions that was granted to him is that the applicant may install distribution power lines above grade relative to the ordinance, which states in section 407 of the ordinance, utilities, electric, telephone, gas, and others. In all subdivisions, the electric, gas, telephone, and other utility lines shall be installed underground from the lot boundary to any structures. That's not his responsibility, but this part is. The subdivision applicant shall install power to the lot boundaries. The power shall be installed outside the road right-of-way except for crossings. Distribution power lines may be above ground with the council's approval, which he was granted that as part of his conditions. In any city's area of impact and where the city's subdivision ordinance requires all underground utilities, that city's ordinance shall apply. Mr. Marley has been aware that it's his responsibility to provide all utilities to his lots. It's not the purchaser's responsibility to provide power and telephone and whatever other utilities are available in that area. I've been back and forth. Mr. Marley's been described and had conversation with staff on multiple occasions that this is his requirement. I have had conversation with Rocky Mountain Power in my last email so that you understand why Mr. Marley is here. This is what I wrote to Mr. Ryan Cook with Rocky Mountain Power. Ryan, in response to your previous email regarding Marley Acres power distribution, I have attached a sketch that shows a possible solution. My knowledge of the existing infrastructure is limited, so please keep that in mind. Our ordinance requires power be brought to the frontage of each lot, no exceptions. Mr. Marley needs to go before the commission and ask for an exception to this requirement if he desires. The planning council does not have the power to waive any ordinance requirements. At this point of the process, it behooves Mr. Marley to figure out the power distribution between Rocky Mountain Power and him. As noted, this is an idea to start. Please contact Mr. Marley. He is copied on this email, and provide a solution that will allow him to move forward with his construction plans and final plat.
So for each phase,
So the question, before you go there,
Okay.
excuse me, let me make this comment. The question to Mr. Marley from us is, who's responsible? Who's going to pay for providing power to these lots? The purchaser or Mr. Marley? As a developer, I don't see that there's an exception in the ordinance that grants him out of providing utilities to the frontage of each lot. That's been our position, and that's been our description, and that's been our conversation with Mr. Marley.
and that's kind of where I was going,
Okay.
is that each one of these phases, even though they're just 4 lots per phase, the responsibility, the obligation is for Mr. Marley to provide power, all utilities to that.
To the developer, it's his responsibility, yes.
And you're asking for an exception not to do that?
Yeah, because I'm selling the property as bare ground. No power, no water. They're buying it to develop it themselves.
But you are the one that come in and requested for the subdivision,
Yes,
to be able to break them up into them lots, which our ordinance says that you, as the developer, are responsible for making sure that the utilities are to each lot. So, myself, I wouldn't go against our ordinance. I mean, I don't want to open that can of worms.
but it's not like the power is a long ways away where I'd have to get an easement or anything like that. The power is touching, the right of way is touching my property.
But every subdivision that we have out there, if we give you the right not to install utilities, they're gonna come in and ask for the same things. And so we have an ordinance that protects a purchaser that says that those utilities are at the edge of my property. So I just don't see us, myself, I don't see me going against the ordinance. It's still your obligation to make sure that all those utilities are to each lot.
Utilities as in,
Just like you just said, the power, the gas,
there's no gas.
well,
They have to drill a well for their own water.
telephone.
There's no phone line out there.
Well, you have the obligation to make one out there if that's part of the subdivision ordinance.
Well, it's running on, it's on the east side of the road. There is a box there where they put it underground.
But
So, it
you've
would be
gotten
there.
into the subdivision business. You've become a developer, and a developer has that responsibility. John, anything?
I don't think so. I mean, this sounds pretty straightforward, that if, once you went down the route to become a developer, that's an obligation that you took on, was to get this to the front, to the property. And you're saying it's right across the street.
It's right across the street. And the power company doesn't want to come and just put in one pole. They want to come and put power to a person's house.
But that power needs to be at the front of every lot. That's the ordinance.
Yeah, but one size does not fit all. And common sense sometimes may helps some, is what I'm saying.
Well, I'm not willing to go away from our ordinance myself.
Is there any reason that you can't just run, what they're eventually gonna do, I think, is run a power line under the road? Is that what they're doing?
No. they're
What are they
coming
gonna do,
across
do
the
a power
road.
pole across?
Yeah, they come across onto my property and put a pole, and then if they have to put another one to reach the house, they put another one, or maybe 3. And they come off the line that's along the road.
Mhm.
And when I talked to Ryan Cook down there, he said that's stupid for him to do that, because I says, I have to send a crew up. They have to put a pole over on your place, bring the wire across, and roll it up. He said that we can't do anything any further because we don't know where they're gonna put a house.
And so, I guess I'm having trouble just visualizing this thing here. They could, right now, run a power line across the road, right, to a pole, right? I mean, could you put the poles right now at the front of each lot? Why would
Well,
you,
they would put one on the division between two lots
okay,
on the property line. They would put one there and they would put one down on the other place.
and why couldn't they just do that right now?
I guess they could, but I thought it was kind of silly to do that, to turn around to have somebody buy a lot and then say, oh, well, then they gotta come and put in some more poles.
Well, once it's set up there, if they run it across right now, how big are these lots?
Pardon?
How big are the lots? How big are the lots?
Oh, 10 acres.
10 acres?
Yeah.
Oh,
That's why
okay.
they didn't want to come and do it, because it said if they build right on the front of the lot, we can do it and just be fine. They said if they build back part way on their lot, then we've got to run more power lines and more poles and,
Aren't they gonna have to, at some point, still do this where they come across
yeah.
and have the pole at the front anyway, and then from there, it's gonna go run to the house, wherever it is, right?
Yeah, I imagine.
So you could do that part right now, and then you would meet the letter of this ordinance, it sounds like. You could just do that right now. Get it across, and the guy isn't doing just one pole, he's doing a pole at every couple of lots, right? And then it's all set up, you've met the ordinance, and you can go ahead and sell it, and wherever they put their house, they're gonna have to run another lot wire anyway.
Which becomes the buyer's responsibility to take the power from the front of his property back to his residence regardless.
Yeah.
That becomes his cost. It's not Mr. Marty's, but it's Mr. Marty's responsibility to provide power to the front of the lot
Right.
for distribution. The other comment that I would like to make is that if Mr. Marty plans to develop the other remaining 8 lots in his phases, it behooves him to have conversation with Rocky Mountain Power about how is he going to get this property to the end and then make a turn to go down to the cul-de-sac for the next phases. It's a greater issue than just these 4 lots as a developer.
You know,
That's been described to Mr. Marty as well from staff.
you know. Well, it sounds like you ought to just go ahead and have them run the power across the road and to these locations that you mentioned where they'd have to have their poles regardless. You might as well just do that now. And then include that in whatever that cost is, split that up amongst whatever you're selling these lots for.
Well, there's still the option of going underground. I mean, that's what the ordinance originally is.
Correct.
And you got a reprieve, and instead of having to go underground, they said you could go above ground, but.
And the reason that they selected to go above ground is when Mr. Marty made his appeal to council, we recognized the fact that he needs to cross the road. And so rather than bore and do an underground, or do a drop from a pole and go underground to a transformer on the opposite side of the road, they allow him to take and connect from pole to pole across the road with an overhead. And then however Rocky Mountain Power decides to distribute, whether it be overhead to each of the respective lots for their distribution, or to do a pole drop and go underground to pick up those 4 lots. We have no opinion that way. We just need to see those construction documents from Rocky Mountain Power to move Mr. Marty forward for final plat.
Yeah, so it sounds to me like if you just do that now, run it across the road to the poles at every other lot, that's gonna have to be done anyway, so get that done and then you're set to go. And then we don't have to also, you know, worry about the concern about starting to make a lot of exceptions with ordinances. Does that make sense?
Not to me, but, I mean, I go with what it is, you know.
Okay. All right, well, I think that's where we're at right now.
Okay.
So I'd go ahead and make a motion that we deny this exception request from Mr. Marty. We have a motion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. So. Miss Evans, and then our treasurer and assessor. Come on up. please introduce yourself and tell us what your request is.
And what?
Tell us what your request is.
My name's Captain Sarah Evans. I'm with the Salvation Army. We are requesting a tax exemption and refund for 2023 for parcel RPTH1000100, and a tax exemption for 2023 for parcel RPPOC1833100.
Okay. Well, on this form for a tax exemption for 2023, it should have been in by April 15th of 2023,
Okay.
and we didn't receive anything.
To be honest, I don't know all of what happened with that, or I'm the local officer. My husband and I are the ones here in charge locally. That kind of stuff is handled by our divisional headquarters. So the information that I got regarding all of this was just the recent communications between you guys and our DHQ, and I'm not sure what happened that it ended up not being filed.
Well, there's no doubt that you're eligible for it, but you have to apply to get it, and you didn't, so.
So I got an email from their headquarters and reaching out to us, asking us about the exemption, why they had taxes due. And so I have been in touch with them. They know that they need to file for 2024. We have even sent them those forms, and so that they're aware they need to have that in this year for 2015. But I told them that they needed to come before you guys if they want to talk about last year's. So.
Okay. And the effects. Have you collected taxes yet?
Honestly, one parcel.
One parcel, the other one, we haven't.
Correct.
Okay. So, all the distribution,
When was it paid?
I didn't.
I mean,
Sorry.
November
It was
20th.
December 19th.
Sorry. We weren't.
So it was just recent, so we just permitted it.
Yes,
Okay.
December's.
so, which means that the school district and cemeteries and everything else have received their funds.
City, school, county. Maybe, no, that would be it, right? I mean, all the county entities, but is it Code Area 1?
I believe so, yes. And they paid the full year
On the one parcel.
on the one parcel.
So the other ones haven't been distributed
If they haven't paid, no.
if they haven't paid. Okay. Comments, John?
Is this different, well, I guess I'll ask Anita this, is this different than any other, if like when we make an error, is it gonna cause us a difference in how we have to deal with the monies and stuff than any other thing that comes before us, where maybe we made a mistake and?
Well, we didn't make the mistake.
I know we didn't
Yeah.
in this case, but I'm just asking,
Just wanna clarify
is the
that.
results gonna be different?
Right, no, the results won't be any different.
Yeah, so it's pretty much the same process.
Right, same
regardless.
process. We would do a letter cancellation upon your word about, what you say about this, upon your decision, and then we would just send it to the treasurer and get that taken care of.
What are these parcels?
So one is the Salvation Army facility that we do all of our social service and church stuffs at.
Right down the street.
Yes. And the other one is the quarters for the officers that run the Salvation Army stuff in the county. We are transient. We are here for very, very similar to the regular military. We get moved to where our skill set is needed the most. So when our skill set is needed somewhere else, and they'll bring in another set of skill sets here, that the house that we're in will be the next officer's housing.
How much money are we talking about here?
Honestly, we did not come prepared for this particular one,
The
and so none of
ones-
us have any
Christie.
The one's right here.
information.
There's
Oh.
1,100, that's the house.
It was, I thought it was 4,800 for the year.
What'd she say?
She thought it was 2,800
No,
for the year.
She said
Is this a half a billion? And this one, the other one's for 4,000?
Yeah, that's the one. So it was paid in full.
The 4,000 was paid in full?
So to be clear, if you waive or cancel the taxes on the parcel that's not been paid, the only thing that has to happen is the process of providing notice, signing the letter of cancellation, and then canceling those taxes, and that one's done. However, on the one where the taxes have already been paid, that is going to involve our office having to withhold that payment. I mean, we'd owe a refund to the Salvation Army, and then we would have to withhold the taxes from those districts on the next distribution, which would probably not happen until, it might take a couple months, except for the county portion, because we would just absorb that. But to recoup those taxes that are paid to the city, depending on disbursements, I don't know how long that would take, because we're not in our big tax collection months.
No, I'll just tell you where I'm at. That's already been paid for 2023. I'd say that we just keep it the way it is. The other one we can cancel, and that won't have a big effect on us. And then you make sure that for 2024, that both of them are submitted.
I know one of the things that I think that they took care of, but I want to just double check the address that things are being sent to is the correct address.
That's over in Boise, right?
No, it's in Borain, I believe, Oregon.
Okay.
Anita. I can get it.
I'm pretty sure it has been changed.
Okay.
I can get you the address.
Because I think that added to us not having
Because
things the way
pretty
they
sure
were
I
supposed
got
to
that
do.
changed,
Yeah.
but we'll make sure that we did.
Thank you.
Yes.
Do you want to make that as a motion?
Do you have any questions about that? So I'd go ahead and make that as a motion. And we have a motion before us. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All right?
All right, so just so I completely understand, so we're canceling the ones that haven't been paid on the one parcel that we're not asking for a refund, but the one we're asking for a refund, you're saying no?
There's no refund?
Just wanted to make sure I completely clearly understood, so when I'm asked questions later, I can answer them.
Yeah, and then, like I said, you're right within the time to file the next one for the new
Okay.
year.
Okay,
So we need to make sure that that happens.
thank you. I appreciate your time.
All right, thank you. All right, you ladies stay right there. You can,
You can go. Thank you, Sarah.
let's go ahead and talk about tax cancellations.
Okay, I guess I will start it. And I'm Anita Hymas, Bannock County Assessor, and with me I have my lead appraiser, Celeste Gunn. In case you have questions concerning the how we come to these determinations. So we submitted a letter of cancellation for 4 years on parcel number RP EA1002600, and in doing our due diligence and really researching this parcel, I'm going to ask that we don't do that letter of cancellation, because as I need to do a couple of things. First of all, in reading the restricted covenants and homeowners association on that particular subdivision, the homeowners association does truly own that parcel. However, so last night I went in to Secretary of State, and they are an active homeowners association. So I've been in contact with Misty and Jennifer this morning, and back in July of 2022, we got some information that I was not aware of, and it only got changed on one parcel, unfortunately, but there was an address change.
But this parcel was in a different name at that time.
This parcel was even in a different name. So when we started researching this, after we were told that it was delinquent, we did change the name back to, we had it in Century 21, and we changed the name back because if you truly read the restricted covenants, we were incorrect. So now they have the new information with the new address and all that. However, before I turn it over to them, I would like to explain that this isn't going to be the case on all common areas. We are going to start drafting, Celeste and I are both gonna start drafting a definite procedure in our office for these common areas, because some common areas are actually owned by lot owners. And if there is, then it's embedded in, not only in their purchase price, but it's embedded in their value as well. We are still looking into if there's any way we can separate it out. I've reached out to other assessors. That, we haven't determined that part yet, but we are looking into a different procedure on this. Not only in the city subdivisions like this one, but I am gonna get with Hal and go over their ordinance with open space and common areas in the county as well. And I already talked to him, and we're gonna meet and kind of look at what their ordinance is and how they look at that, so we can be better informed in our office.
Okay.
And that being said, I'm gonna let Jennifer have the floor.
So what brought this to our attention was, of course, that this parcel is delinquent for 4 years and is in our tax deed process now. However, the current owner has never been notified because it was in the wrong name for 4 years. So, as Anita said, she wants to not do the cancellation for all 4 years, but my request would be possibly to just cancel that last year, the 2020, because we are in the tax deed process. And then we can contact these people and let them know that it was an error made on the county's part, that we have all these taxes that are owing, and perhaps collect just the taxes without any late fees and interest, because they were never notified. They had no idea they even had this bill. That would be our request at this time, is
Okay.
just because of the tax deed process that we are in right now, if we could buy a year on it to try to get these taxes collected from the owner.
Well, I partially agree with that, except I don't want to cancel this until you talk to them and see how cooperative they are with you.
Okay.
Because I would like a little bit of leverage right there, to say, you know, this is where you're at. We realize the situation, but if you don't cooperate with us, then we can just go ahead and move forward. I don't want to give another year and fight with them for a full year. I'd like a little leverage, honestly.
And we are concerned, like, where it is a homeowners association, I don't know how much money they will even have in that fund, that maybe they won't be able to come up
Well,
with.
and maybe that representative needs to come before us and have a
Okay.
conversation. 'Cause
Okay, we'll
and
contact
they
them.
know, and they make that commitment right here on the record, instead of us just sending emails back and forth and doing that for 6 months.
Okay.
That's my feelings.
Sounds good to me.
I'd like to have them come before us and say, okay, you guys have had a break. But like I told Anita the other day, we had this come before us a few times in BOE. And so before BOE starts this year, we need to know and have a plan of how we're gonna address every one of these
And we will,
situations.
we will.
That's,
They're not all the same.
you know, when we started going through this, it brought nightmares of BOE back, you know. So,
Yes.
okay?
Thank you.
If we do reach out to them and we're able to contact them and they say, yes, we can go ahead and take care of it, would you be willing to waive the interest and late fees instead of us having to come back in front of you?
If they cooperate with you, I'd go ahead and I'll go ahead and make a motion that we do that we waive the 2020 taxes. I don't even have the part, there
Now
it
you're
is.
saying you're gonna waive the late fees.
And then on these, we would waive the interest and late fees,
But you'd waive the whole 2020 taxes.
but I'd waive the 2020 taxes so that they wouldn't go into tax deed, otherwise they're in tax deed.
Okay.
And they have to come.
Yep, okay.
So I'd make that as a motion, and we have a motion, all in favor, say aye.
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 We'll keep you
Thank you.
informed.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Jason.
Good morning,
Good morning.
Mr. Chair. Commissioners, Jason Dye, Trial Court Administrator. We have the Thompson-Reuter contract for Westlaw for the prosecutor in the public defender's office. It's a 3-year contract that's come back into renewal now. It was previously, it's for 30 slots or participants in the Westlaw program, and previously it was $3,739 a month, and it will be increasing to $3,368.28. We do have one bridge month for March, and so this wouldn't start until April. Christy has been in contact with the prosecutors and the public defender's office, and she has a plan in order to pay for the increase. We did have some concerns with this coming about at this time, and then with the Public Defense Commission changing up. And so we talked to them at Thomas Reuter's, and they will reduce the amount of slots from 30 to the 15 for the prosecutor's office, and that will reduce it to $112.27 per slot at that time in October or whenever that actually happens, and so that we won't be stuck with that increased bill at that time.
Okay.
So when I talk to prosecutors, their budget is going to be impacted by about $930. I think they'll be okay absorbing that increase. Public defender's budget is going to be a little bit higher, and I'm a little concerned about theirs. But what I would like to do is approve to go ahead and have this absorbed through their budget, and then just continue to monitor their budget through the year. And if they start to get into trouble, just you guys be warned that we may need to help them out with some bills. When I talked to Dave, he thinks he's going to be okay. This will affect their grants and also their regular county budget. The county budget's the one that I'm worried about.
Okay.
But I just wanted that disclaimer that it might impact them through the year, but we're hoping to
If we
absorb.
get rid of them before year end, we should be good. Everybody's ready, huh?
And we can monitor a budget. If they've got some extra funds in a budget due to not hiring, then we could move that down to B, would be one of the solutions if they are going to be in trouble operating budget-wise. The other option would be if they needed to cover a bill through contingency, we would do that. But
Okay. All right, questions? Motion?
You have this in, well, I do have one question, sorry. You have this in writing from Thomas Reuter's that they're going to make this reduction when this transition takes place?
I have an email.
Well, that's writing.
That they did have it stated, and that's what they did. And we have a verbal, when we had a meeting with them and the prosecutor's office, and they gave a verbal at that time as well that this would be the understanding. And then,
as long as we have written confirmation, I'm good. Okay, so Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the request as presented.
We have a motion, all in favor say aye.
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 when do we have to provide them notice, like September 1, 30 days, or do you know?
I'll find out for that from Jeff and let you guys know. Okay, thank you.
All right, Todd.
Christie, to answer your question, it would be 30 days. It's the non-appropriations funds clause essentially that we'd be looking at
Okay,
doing.
perfect.
So-
So we just, if
At
you guys
least-
could just coordinate who would send that letter, just to make sure it's done.
Yeah, I'll make sure with our office, if I'm still not using it at that time.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
All right, you're up.
Good morning, Todd Mauger with Bannock County Juvenile Justice in the Village. I'm not sure I'm here, I think for two purposes. One is the affiliation agreement with Grand Canyon University.
We already approved that.
Oh, you already approved
Yeah.
that? Okay,
Yeah.
good. So I'm only here for one thing.
We wasn't sure who was doing, and I had a conversation with Matt yesterday. And
Okay. Do you have any other questions about it?
No. The term, the length of it, and I'd rather it was for that individual, what was going on, when I first got it, that was my confusion
Okay.
and stuff. And then legal looked over and changed a couple of things on it, and so we're all good.
Okay, that's good news. So I'm here requesting approval to submit a grant for the Office of Drug Policy, our substance abuse education program. The grant provides an evidence-based substance abuse education program called Families in Action. In the past, it's a 6-cohort, 2.5 hour session. So there's 6 sessions, 2.5 hour sessions that can be taught to both parents and youth, or just parents and youth. We have taught 6 cohorts at Bannock County Youth Development Center, which we have transitioned to the village. And then we have been teaching 2 cohorts of Teens in Action to the Marsh Valley Middle School. In looking back during state fiscal year 2023, since that was the last one that was finished, we served 49 parents and 76 youth for a total of 125 participants. The request for the program will be similar to state fiscal year 24 and 23. And so when I look at it, we're looking at about $12,000 to $13,000. I'm waiting on some quotes for some materials. But in addition, I'd like to propose that as we work with the village, we're working with the other counties to kind of have those satellite offices up and running, where we're screening and assessing youth in those other counties. American Falls and Power County is currently working to put a satellite office at the school district there, the American Falls School District. I worked with them, and they received some grant funding as well for rural replication, and so they actually have applied for this grant in the past years. I've talked to them early on, several years ago, and helped them apply for the grant. So they're teaching the Families in Actions in Power County. What I would like to do, and I'm requesting additionally in this application, if approved, that we provide a cohort or 2 extra cohorts, one to Oneida County's satellite office and possibly another one to Caribou County. I've reached out to the superintendent there at the school district, where Oneida County is kind of targeting where their satellite office would be located, and haven't heard back, but I do believe he'd be in favor of that. It's something that before I write the grant, I'll make sure and get letters of support for. But that's where we're at. We'd still do the 6 cohorts here in Bannock County, and then look to possibly provide Families in Action in the other 2 satellite offices that are currently under implementation that we're working towards. But I'm estimating that the total grant and materials will be right around $13,000. Now, this will pay for staff, this will pay for materials and a travel budget, so they'll pay mileage on that. So and then there's a 10% administration fee that we would also receive to help support that.
And there's no match.
There's no match.
Pretty simple to me.
Yeah, it's something we've been applying for since like 2008. It's really a staple for those prevention kids that are showing signs of risk towards using substances, and it focuses really on building relationships with parents, teaching the parents different parenting styles and which ones are appropriate and not, building communication, problem solving, decision making with their youth. So it's a great program.
Good. Motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the grant application as requested.
We have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay,
Alright.
so it's due the 15th, so I'll get back on the schedule and get to writing, so thank you.
Thank you. We're excited. All right, Shanda. We're gonna combine the 2, so I just.
Good morning, Commissioners. Shannon Crystal, Chief Procurement Officer, and I have with me today Buddy Romero, Public Works Assistant Director.
We've got a couple items before the board today, and the first one I wanted to talk about is a recommendation to award the county bulk fuel bid that we just went out for. We went out for bid for that. We got 3 bids back in, and after reviewing to make sure that everybody complied with that bid, we would recommend that the board award that bid to Conrad Bischoff. That would be for a year, starting in April. There would be a non-appropriations clause built into that contract.
There would be a what?
A non-appropriations clause, because we do cross over fiscal years. So just in case there was anything changed in the budget, we would have that built in as we transfer from fiscal year 24 to 25. It's been through legal for review, and we would send that out, if approved today, to Conrad Bischoff for review and comment on that.
Okay. Any questions?
And we spoke about this the other day. So did you figure out how you're going to know? Because this is based on an OPUS rack rate, right?
Right. So I did talk to Kyle briefly about making sure that those procedures, whatever they wanted them to be, whether it be us or put it on the vendor, but to make sure how that was going to work, be worked out. And he was going to contact Buddy and I think Steve in his office, right, to work that out. The other one that we talked about was where, if we wanted that at Pocatello Rec. And as I talked to Buddy about it briefly, we don't want to limit them in case, if it happens to be cheaper to get out of Utah, we don't want to say that you can't get it cheaper out of Utah because we force you to come here to get it. So we do want to pay attention to that language. And somehow, we hadn't finalized the language, but to talk about, right, where it's most economical for both parties to get it, because there are a couple different of those depots that they could get it from that potentially could fluctuate at any given time when we get the call, that one might be cheaper than another. So then we didn't want to limit them just to here and potentially pay more, if that makes sense.
But the contract, if I remember it correctly, it's based, they're going to pay a set fee based on the rack plus or minus something, right?
Correct.
And Pocatello is like, where are they transporting the oil from?
See, and that's the thing that we want to identify better, but not limit ourselves, right? Because there are multiple places that they can get it from. There's the hub out of Utah, and then I can't remember if it's Wyoming or Montana. There's another place up north that they could get it, and then the one here in Pocatello. So there are 3 places that are feasible that at any given time, right, one might be cheaper than another, that we want to be able to pull from. But I want to ensure that that language then identifies which hub they're getting it out of, and then so then we can track back and say, great, then it's plus or minus. So that rack that we can pull off of Opus for whatever location they pulled it out of, and then it's plus or minus wherever that they are delivering to Bannock County, depending on the bid that they submitted.
When does this contract start?
April 1st.
And so you're working out those kind of details?
Correct. Over the next 6 weeks.
With the company?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Those contract negotiations will start once the board approves awarding the bid.
So we're approving awarding the bid, but then you're still negotiating the contract?
Correct.
Okay, I'm fine with that. Okay. So, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we award the contract as requested.
We have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
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 And I do have letters for signature.
Okay.
And that contract will come back before the board once it's negotiated and back before the board for review before signature for sure.
Okay.
The second item I have before the board is a procurement update. If we want to start at the top with a noxious weed chemical bid, we have reviewed the state's contract. They currently hold with Wilbur Ellis. It is a 2-year contract, and it's been reviewed by Kathy Jelke, and she feels that it will meet her needs for the year, and so we want to move forward with a piggyback on that. So I've started the paperwork and should submit it to legal hopefully by the end of the week for review on that one. On the Public Works road chips, I have reached out to 5 different entities and hoping to piggyback off of a contract that somebody might have, but to no avail. Ada County has gone out to bid twice in the last year and had no bidders on their projects. And the other entities that at least have responded back either haven't had to bid or got no responses. So it looks like something that we're going to have to go out to bid for. So I'll start drafting that and get it over to Public Works for review here, at least by the beginning of next week. If we move down to the commissioners for the forensic pathologist building shell, we held a pre-bid meeting yesterday. We had 5 contractors attend that meeting. It is not mandatory, so other contractors would be able to bid, but it was just an opportunity to have a discussion with those contractors. And we do have, those questions are due on that project on Monday. The next one for the sheriff, the detention plumbing renovation. Questions were due from contractors a couple days ago on the 20th on Monday. We received no questions, and Levi and I don't have anything that we want to clarify, so we won't be issuing an addendum, but those bids will be due back on March the 4th. We just had 2 bids open, the architectural services and the guardrails, and both of those projects are under review, and I anticipate a recommendation coming back before the board in the next couple of weeks on both of those projects. Are there any questions on procurement projects?
Nope.
Do you want me to stay here or? Sure.
All right, so the policy that we're going over, I guess, is for the fleet management. Public Works, auditing, procurement, and HR have been working on putting this policy together. We're hoping to get it together to have a clear path forward for vehicle allocation, disposal, maintenance, and usage on all of our fleet. We currently have 157 vehicles in our fleet, and we have determined a criteria for where we feel that these vehicles should be replaced.
How many did you say?
157.
Okay.
Yep. And so for our replacement criteria, we figured 150,000 miles and 15 years for gas vehicles, and then 20 years and 200,000 miles for diesel vehicles. Right now, as it sits, we have 35 vehicles that fit that criteria. Kyle and I had put this spreadsheet together with all of our fleet and determined that there's approximately 24 vehicles that are being underutilized in the county. We do want to take a closer in-depth look of the reasoning behind that. Some of the vehicles may be a specialty vehicle, like we have a tire truck, for instance, that, you know, last year I think it had just under 1,000 miles put on it, but it's something that we need to have for our shop, so that's kind of why those miles are low there.
What does a tire truck do?
So is what we do is, like, if there's a big tire that goes down out at the landfill, we'll take the truck up there, pull the tire off, put it on the truck, and then bring it back down to the shop for replacement. It also has tools on there for tire replacement in the field as well, the jacks and air wrenches and everything that you would need.
Are you going to include the departments when you?
Yes.
To help determine if those?
Yes, absolutely, yep. And that's something that, I guess, as we move forward with this, we'll look into that with each department individually. I know within Public Works, we definitely have a couple vehicles we could drop off. One at the landfill, one at Weed, so. So after going through that, Kyle and I would recommend that we'd replace the 25 vehicles in FY25. We have a rough cost estimate for that, which you'll see on that spreadsheet. So on the spreadsheet, it takes you through 2035, and that'll give you the estimated cost per year where we need to be to keep our vehicle to that criteria. The colors that you see on the spreadsheet, the greens meaning we're doing good on mileage, we're staying under 15,000 miles and over 1,000. The red is the underutilized vehicles for under 1,000, and the blue would be the vehicles that we're driving over 15,000 miles per year.
So some of these are, so like there's a sheriff's vehicle that's highlighted red on the back. That's a brand new vehicle.
Right.
So some of these that are showing underutilized.
Exactly, yeah, and we didn't count those in that number, the 24 number, but Yeah, you are correct. We weren't sure how far the board would want us to dig into it at this point, but I know in a couple of the departments, they had half-ton pickups that were being underutilized, and so we maybe thought maybe we'd add a half-ton pickup to the pool, the commission pool, or however, whatever you want to name that. And that, you know, instead of replacing 3 vehicles, it would be 1. So there's some things like that that we kind of have in the works, but just kind of want to know the direction the board would like us to proceed. And Kyle had a family emergency, and that's why I'm presenting today, just so you're aware.
Well, we appreciate this information. We'll just have to take it and go digest it a little bit. And
Sure.
And then we'll get a meeting together and kind of see where we want to go and what direction we can go. And
Sure.
And then if you, like I say, if you get a little information about the underutilized and what's going on, a little bit more departments, like I said, across the road here, I know that there's a lot of vehicles that they don't move.
Sure.
And, but there's no reason to have things on our insurance and coverage that we're driving less than 1,000 miles a year.
Well, and the underutilization's putting a lot of stress on the shop as well, because, I mean, we're coming and replacing batteries constantly and jumping vehicles because they're not getting started for several months. So I think it'd help us out a bunch out there for that. And, you know, also some of these vehicles with 220,000+ miles being in and out of the shop constantly, I think it'd be in our best interest to replace them. But
no, I think this is great to have, and as we get to where we're going to go with ARPA on some of these things, and also get into next year's budget, these are vital information to help us plan.
okay.
Questions on it now?
Not now.
Yeah.
Well, plenty of questions.
But, as I say, I'm just receiving it, we need to digest this quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Jeff will want to be involved in any discussions on it also.
And one part that I know, Ernie, we had talked about too, is the reallocation of those vehicles that we were going to do before. I don't know if you want to go over those now, or at what point that you would like to figure that out. So we planned on doing that the same day as we
Okay.
did this.
How many do we have?
I think there's only 3. Everything else we planned on sending to auction. So the one you guys had determined to send that Tahoe to emergency management, and then the Dodge 4500, the old ambulance truck. Road and Bridge was going to take that over. That tire truck that I spoke of is a 99 with 175-ish thousand miles. This one's a 2014 with around 160,000, so it'd be a good trade there. The 2015 Durango we recommended to go to the coroner where it had the emergency lights in it, and I understand he's already been driving it as well. So
What do you mean? Then he ain't getting it. He didn't get the okay.
and then
So your recommendation, there's 3 vehicles. Your recommendation is this one with the lights goes to the coroner. The other one is an ambulance, you said?
it's an old ambulance, but the box has been taken off of it, so
body.
it's basically just a truck cab.
So you guys are gonna take that over.
Yes.
And what's the third one?
The third is a 2014 Jeep Compass, and we recommended juvenile probation receive that because they have 7 vehicles that fit the criteria for replacement.
Do you have any issues with any of those recommendations?
No.
All right, well, should I make a motion to do that?
Yeah.
All right, Mr. Chairman, I move that we follow the recommendation of Road and Bridge.
We have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Sorry, does that include the ones going to auction? Did we already approve those?
Well, you already said that, right?
Okay.
That's already been done, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, excellent.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Did you have something, Adam?
Well, I got invited, but Christy didn't know I was on the agenda, so I was invited, so I stayed. If you don't have anything for me,
I don't have anything.
okay?
I think I've checked all the boxes.
Perfect. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Yep.
How was your trip to Boise?
It's long gone.
Ran.